Okay, we're up to Yud Aleph on the base. We had seen in the Mishnah the criteria for schach. In order for something to kabel schach, it has to be geduli min haaretz. It has to be something that grows from the ground, and it has to be something that's not mekabel tumah. Anything that A doesn't grow from the ground or B is mekabel tumah, you can't use for schach. Okay, so the Gemara wants to know its source. Again, we're up to Yud Aleph on the base. We're going to begin 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 lines to the bottom. The gedulim min haaretz einus mesachim ba. Minani mili amresh lakish amakra. It says ve'eid yale min haaretz, and a cloud came up from the haaretz. Ma eid dava sheina mekabel tuma. Just like a cloud is something that can't be mekabel tuma. V'gidulim min haaretz, and it's considered gidulim min haaretz. It condenses from the ocean. It condenses from the ground. Af sukkah, so to sukkah, dava sheina mekabel tuma v'gidulim min haaretz. Now, what is in the world? What are we bringing in by schach? Why are we bringing in a cloud? And the answer is obvious, right? We're going to see a machlokus in a second, a famous machlokus between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer as to what exactly, how do we define a sukkah? So obviously, Reish Lakish is defining a sukkah based upon that they put us in Anani HaKavod, that he must have put us in Anani HaKavod. So therefore, the source for sukkah, again, guys, I can't stress it enough. The word sukkah means schach. It doesn't mean defanais. Sukkah is defined by the covering, by the schach. It doesn't mean the defanais. So in Mela, we're going to go ahead and be able to learn from the cloud. So a cloud is something that grows from the ground. A cloud is not mekabel tumah. So it checks off the two criteria that we have, that it can't be mekabel tumah and it grows from the ground. Very good, according to Mandiyama, who says that the reason why we sit in sukkahs is because of the Anani HaKavod. Very good, right? Therefore, you can learn from what? From the cloud. Mandiyama sukkahs mamish asu, like the Mandiyama that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in sukkahs. What are you going to say? The Tanya, ki basukkah says shafti as bnei Yisrael. Like for in sukkah says shafti, I placed bnei Yisrael. Anani HaKavod hayu. These were Anani HaKavod. They were clouds. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. And Rabbi Akiva oimer sukkos mamish asul lehem. They made sukkos mamish. So hanichol Rabbi Eliezer, very good. We can use ve'eid yalim in haaretz as a source for the criteria for sukkah, for schach. El Rabbi Akiva ma'ayik lemeim. El Rabbi Akiva, what are you going to say? Okay, so this is a very, very famous machlokes. It's brought all over. So my nafkamina in halacha, really. My nafkamina in halacha, between whether it was Anani HaKavod or whether it was mamish sukkah. So the Torah brings it down, and he brings down that Anani HaKavod. It's interesting. He passes like Rabbi Eliezer, not like Rabbi Akiva. Usually passing like Rabbi Akiva. And so therefore, one nafkamina would be when you go ahead and make kiddush the first night, you should have in mind Anani HaKavod. If that's the reason we're sitting in a sukkah, it's not enough to say, have in mind that you're in the sukkah. You have to have in mind Anani HaKavod. We also, I'm throwing this in, we also had the man Yedu Dorasechem like Rabbi, the Indian of Yitzias Mitzrayim, that we should throw that in as well, based upon the Rach, that's then we got it to Levincha, that also we should have in mind. So when you make it, you have to have in mind the Yitzias Mitzrayim, you have in mind and Anani HaKavod. Those are two things you should have in mind. Halacha l'maisa b'shas sukkah. Another nafkamina Yehona's son told me is that Anani HaKavod, there was a bottom to it. There was a bottom to it. By a sukkah, there's not necessarily a bottom. The Anani HaKavod, they were encapsulated. So there was a bottom. So like that, when you build your sukkah, you would have to have a bottom as well. That's according to Yehona's and Stern. I have a kasha that I think is a very valid kasha, and I found it the Shur Mitzvah Halacha quotes it b'shem de Lavush. Bishlema alsa Anani HaKavod l'man yedu darasechem ki b'sukkos hashafti. To remember that Anani HaKavod, the great nest that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for us, is a wonderful thing. And therefore, we sit in the sukkah, the manyedu, like Darasechem ki v'shukas hashafti. But like the mandiyama that is a sukkah, what was the nest? Like what was the nest? A pasha kasha. Like Rabbi Akiva, that is a sukkah. What was the nest of sukkahs that manyedu Darasechem that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in sukkahs? It wasn't a nes. It's a good kasha. So I don't know if it's the Levush Teretz or the Shur Mitzvah Melachos Teretz. He just quotes the pasuk. The pasuk in the Devarim Periches pasuk Tesvav. It says
traveled with them.
Excuse me.
The nest. It traveled with them.
How do you know it traveled with them? It just says Kivya Sukkos Shafti. Maybe they took it down and put it.
It encompassed them the whole time from all sides.
Again, how do you know when they traveled? They didn't take them apart and put them back together when they encamped.
No, it's an Ananiya covered. It was all around them.
Ananiya covered, we know why. The kasha is not on the Ananiya covered. The kasha on Rabbi Akiva says the sukkah.
Sukkah's mom, okay.
That Ananiya covered is that is a tremendous nest, right? The kasha is like the Maniyama who says the sukkah.
Okay.
So I don't know again. This Levushis Teretz or the Shur Mitzvah Melachos Teretz. It says the pasuk says in the Devarim Ches Tesvav. It says Hamolichacha b'midbar hagadol, who took you b'midbar hagadol, v'hanoira, nachash, saraf, v'akrav, b'tzimon asherein mayim. So the fact that this sukkah protected you from poisonous snakes and scorpions, that's the nest. That you were in a midbar. And a midbar is sakana from these dangerous creatures. And the fact that some sukkah that was made from, it doesn't say what it was made from, anything, right? A patchwork, I'm sure it wasn't anything near what we have in terms of fiberglass and wood, right? That it could protect you from those creatures. That was the nest. That was his teretz. Yehona's son has a sefer called Korban Aaron. It's the number one pirish. He lived in the 1600s, in the 17th century, and it's the major pirish on the Torah's Kahanim, which is the collection of Maimorei Chazal and Sefer Vayikra. And he says they didn't need a sukkah at all. Their bitachon was so great, they didn't need any protection. They could have just slept on the sand with nothing. So the fact that they had a sukkah taka was a nest. Their level of bitachon, the Dardeya, was so powerful that after Matan Torah and after Kriyas Yamsuf, the relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu was so powerful and so clear. The bitachon in Hashem, they didn't need any protection. So any protection you'd give b'derech hateva was shayna nes. That's the way the Korban Aaron learns. It's a very nice pshat. So we have two pshatim. Why, when you go ahead, like Rabbi Eliezer, clearly we understand why he was sukkah shafti, it's the Ananiya kavod. And secondly, if it was a real sukkah, even that was a tremendous nest because it was unnecessary. Yes, Mayor.
With that text, but saying how Nessa was because there's so much bitachon in Hashem, then why were there ever stories that the Jews complained about water and food?
Okay, Einachinami. There was a time that wasn't a Hamoinam, and there was a time on them. Einachinami. Later on, there was complainers for sure. But I guess for the time, because of Safti, there was enough of a bitachon was strong enough. Again, you're not defining all the people. The people complain with a minority.
And that pshat fits in. We call sukkah tzela de hemnusa, the shade of Amuna.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Kiyasir Avdimi. Okay, so now we have a kasha. Like Rabbi Akiva, where's the source for what? For the sukkah. Again, where's the source for the schach, right? If you learn from the Eidala, if the Ananiya covered, I can learn from the pillars. I can learn from the cloud. On the other hand, if it's from Mamash Sukkah, where's it from? So Kiyasir Avdimi Rabbi Yochanan Makra, we said this many times. Chag HaSukkah tasalacha, makis sukkah lechagiga. Ma chagiga davashen mekabel tuma. We said this. It's not mekabel tuma. We said earlier that it's kodesh. When we want to say the atzei sukkah kodesh, the gidulim min haaretz, they're not mekabel tuma. Just like a chagiga, a korban chagiga, an animal is not mekabel tuma when it's alive, but it is gidulim min haaretz. The fact that it gets nutrients from the ground to grow, it's considered gidulim min haaretz. Av sukkah davashen mekabel tuma of the gidulim min haaretz. So the first attempt to, like the Mandiyama, like Rabbi Akiva, to learn why the schach needs to be something that's not mekabel tumah and gedulin in aretz is what is a bal chai, is a living thing. Can you imagine throwing a cow up on top as a schach, a goat on top of your sukkah as a schach? Obviously not, right? So Kiyasa Ravin. So again, these are people who came from Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Ravin. So now when Kiyasa Ravin, he said, and then Rabbi Yochanan, he had a different shot. He said from the following pasuk: Omakra. When you gather migoncha umi yikvecha, when you grab them from your granaries and from yikvecha and from your wine presses, what are you getting from? From the psoilus of the goyren and the psoilus of the yekev. Now, the psoilus of the goyren, psoilus of the yekev, Rashi tells us is the straw, or it's the shoots, the little, when the grapes, you pull the grapes off, it's those pieces of grass, not grass, the stems, right? That is the psoilus. That is not makabel tumah. It doesn't have a shem oichel, yet it grows in the ground. So it says, me asvecha, mi gorncha, mi yekvecha. So therefore, mi psoiles, from the junk of the food, meaning it's not food at all, because it was food, it would be makabel tumah. So therefore, we learn out, and this is the source, mi asvecha, mi gorncha, mi yekvecha, that psoiles that grows in the ground and is not makabel tumah, that is used for schach. Why don't we say the food itself? Why do you say the stubble? Why don't you say the stubble with the wheat or with the with a sarah? Why don't you say the cluster with the grape on it, not just the stems? So l'chayra, and then it will be something that is makabel tumah. That will be more comprehensive, guys. That's makabel tumah because it's a food. And for the Gemara on Rabbi Zera, yekev kesiv kan v'yev shelasachich ba. Yekev, guys, means wine. You can't be mesacheh wine; it's a liquid, right? So therefore, I know it must be speaking about the psoilus and not the food stuff itself, because yekev is a wine press. It doesn't say where you gather grapes. It speaks about the wine press, where you're pressing the grape. Pressing the grape obviously is the juice of the grape. It's the wine. So if it's going to be wine, obviously you can't go ahead and throw wine on top of your sukkah and expect it to stay there. What are you talking about? Let's say it's coagulated wine that comes from snir, which is similar to gulei devela. I was thinking there was a hole on the side of the mizbeach where they would do nisa chayayin. It says every 70 years the pirchei kahuna would go down there and they take out caked wine. So in other words, it coagulates over time. So Fred the Gemara, if you're telling me it's a physical impossibility, I'll question that. Maybe it's not a physical impossibility. Maybe you can use coagulated wine, which is solid. So if it's solid, then you could. So in other words, the kasher is why do you use the psoilus? Maybe use the food itself. And the teretz is that why you can't use the food itself because it's wine. I can go ahead and have solid wine, and maybe you could use it. So back to the original question: how do you know that it's the psoilus? Maybe it's what? It's the yekev and the goyren itself. So on Rabbi Zera, on that whole milsa, or Havi B'Yadam, we had a Messiah in our hands that this is a great teretz, and we had a great proof. And because of this question of coagulated wine, comes along Rabbi Yirmiyah and Shad Bey Narga, and he throws a narga, he throws an axe into the work. He messes up everything. Rashi learns this is a kasha for charata. Rashi learns this is a kasha from charata. In other words, they don't have a teretz, and right now they don't have that as a limud. Tosfos learns on. Look at the last Tosfos. The last Tosfos on the page. Chavili Zradim. Count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines to the next Tosfos. V'yesh leimar. The hacha nami moida bar Reb Zera. Reb Zera is moida that you're learning it from asbecha migarcha mikvecha. Like Hamar, and he only said what this thing that Reb Yirmiyah threw an axe into the works. The layada l'shinui kusha Reb Yirmiyah. They didn't know the answer to this kasha of solidified wine. Not that they had charata. In other words, Rashi is learning they had charata from it. Tais is learning, no, we don't have charata. The source still is migarcha mikvecha. That is the source. However, the kasha from solidified wine, I don't have a teretz to. But Einochinami, this is the source. Back in the Gemara. Rav Ashi said, I'll tell you the source. Rav Ashi Yama, mi garncha. We all know mi means part of. Mi garncha v'loy garin atzmai. From the garin, but not the garin itself. The stuff, the psoilus of the garin, but not the produce of the garin, not the wheat, not the barley. Mi yekvecha v'loy yekev atzmai. From the refuse of the wine vat, v'loy yekev atzmai, but not the wine vat itself, not the produce itself. So that's one source. And this is the one that's put down la halacha, the one that we use. Rashi's quoted all the time. For asvecha, you're going from michvecha. Rav Chisda has another source from the Nevi'im. Rav Chisda Amar Mehacha. It says by making the Chag Sukkah, Suah Hora, go to the mountains. Ve'viu alei zayis, bring olive leaves. Ve'alei eitz shemen, and bring olive branches. Ve'alei hadas and hadasim. Ve'alei tamarim and date branches. Ve'alei eitz avos and hadas branches, braided branches. So l'chayra, what are you going to use this for, guys? Obviously, you can't use it for daled minim. So it must be you're using it what for the schach. Furthermore, hainu hadas hainu eitz avis. It's the same thing. Why is repetition? Amrav Chisda hadas shoyte l'sukkah. Hadas shoyte means hadas, guys, that doesn't have three together, right? It has one over here, one over here, one over here, or two over here. It doesn't have all three together. That's called a hadash shoyte. That would be used l'sukkah because again, it's not makabel tum and it grows from the ground. The eitz avos l'lulav and the eitz avos where it is braided, where it looks like a braid, where it has all three together going up, that will be used for the lulav. Okay, so just to reiterate, we had a kasha. The Mishnah says, and this is the rule, what is schach? Anything that grows from the ground and is not makabel tuma. We have two sources, a source from asbcha migorncha miyekvecha, or the pasuk in the Chemya of Tzei Mehor, and using the hadassim for the lulav and hadassim for the sukkah. Hadassim are not makabel tuma, and they grow from the ground. Okay, let's look at some pictures. Perik Yud Beis, Daf Yud Beis. Let's get a picture going over here. Page 43. Page 43. This picture. You're putting on top over there, chavile kash, you're putting chavilim of straw, chavile eitzim, bundles of straw, bundles of wood, the chavilis rodim and bundles what of cane. Bundles of cane. Those three things are you're putting on top of there. Ein misachim behen, you can't use them for schach. Ein misachim, you can't use them for schach. For kulan shehatiroin, and if you untie them, then kasherois, then they would be kosher. The kulan and everything, anything that is possible for schach, not just these three things, even something that's makabel tumah, even something that doesn't grow from the ground. Guys, fiberglass doesn't grow from the ground, in case you didn't know, right? Fiberglass does not grow from the ground, right? You can use shares of the funnel. So this is the second v'kulan is not limiting going back on the three things just mentioned. The first one is, but the second one is going on anything that's possible for schach, you could even use, or anything that's kosher for schach, you can use for the funnels. Now, what's wrong with the chavile kash? What's wrong with that? What are you worried about? Says Rashi, the chavile is rodin min kanem hein. There are different types of reeds. Shoisim zrodim, v'oidem oisam, v'oidem lachim, behema echlasan. They're wet. Behemas eat them. L'chiyavshi, when they dry, oimdim lahihestik. You can use them for fuels. Ein mesachim behem kishehin kishurim, when they're tied together. The Gemara refers taima. The Gemara is going to explain the reason. Okay, now here's the reason. Let's say I come back from the field and I'm tired, and I just happen to have a sukkah there, 4 posts for that are Zayin Tef Fachim by Zayin Fachim, above 10, less than 20, and I'm tired, and I take it, I throw it on top, and there it is. So there is a gezerah Chachamim made that even if you go ahead and put it up there, l'shem schach, right? We put it up there, l'shem schach, a bundle, you may come to go ahead and use an oitzer as a sukkah. It seems an oitzer, there would be storage houses where they would constantly have bundles up there. So it's a din d'Rabbanan. It's a din d'Rabbanan. To avoid that, they did not. If you matter it and you spread it out, you made your sukkah. There's nothing to be worried about. It's not in a bundle. But as long as it's bundled, you may come to go ahead and be machsher an oitzer. So this is called the gezeres oitzer. It's a din d'Rabbanan. Good. So to understand the Gemara, we have this case, and then we have the Mishnah on Tesvav. If you take a look at the Mishnah on Tesvav, we know next case. Hachoitit begadish. Someone hollows out a haystack. Lassus le sukkah ain't a sukkah. So you have a picture on page 44. Picture page 44. You have a haystack. You hollow it out. That's not good. That's ain't a sukkah. That's not a sukkah. The lashon is it's not a sukkah, right? That's the lashon. It is not a sukkah. That's the lashon. Rabbi Yaakov heard something from Rabbi Yochanan, guys, regarding these two dinim, chavile kash or the hollowing out the haystack. One he heard because of gezeras eitzer, and one he heard because of tasev v'lo mina asli. And he didn't know which to apply to which. Now, we're going to apply the following. we're going to apply the Gezeris Eitzer to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah, which states that Ein Mesachim Behem, right? Because we're going to learn that's the Rabbanon. The case of the haystack is going to be Kaasev Leimin Asoi. When you hollow it out, you didn't make the schach. Again, the sukkah is the schach, and you didn't make it. It just was memela there. Kaasev, make it. Leimin Asoi, not something that's made. But Rabbi Yaakov didn't know that. He didn't know that. So he wanted to know which was which. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Yaakov. Shamat mine, the Rabbi Yochanan, tarti. I heard from Rabbi Yochanan two dinim. Chadaha, one ardin of chavile kash, chavile zrodim, chavile eitzim. Ve'idach hachaytet begadish lasle sukkah in the sukkah. I heard two mishnayos from him. Chada mishum gezeres eitzer. One you couldn't do because the gezeru you may come to use a storage house. The chada mishum tasev le'mina asoi. And one because what? The din of tasev le'mina asoi. And v'lo yadana haminayu mishum eitzer b'haminayu mishum tasev le'mina asoi. My nafkamina, guys. The mishum gezeres eitzer, it's kasha, but it's only pasul the rabbanan. Tasev le'mina asoi would be psul deraisa. So it's tremendous nafkamina what the reason is. Tremendous nafkamina. So two mishnayos. How is chavile kash? One haystack, two dinim gezeres eitzer. Second din tasev le'min asoi, which goes to which? So now let's see. Rav Chia bar Abba, Rav Yochanan. Why do we say chavile kash v'chavile eitzim v'chavile zrodim ein mesachim behem? Because pamim shadam ba min asadeh, a person will come from the field be'erev v'chavilasai al kseifoy, and he'll have his bundle on his shoulder. Umale, he'll put it up. Umenichei al gabi sukkasai, and he'll leave it on the sukkah. Kedei liyavsha v'nimach aleha l'sikoch v'tayra oimer tasev le'min asoi. Now, guys, tasev min asoi is the reason for the psul. But what we're worried about is you may do this situation when it's not tasev le'min asoi, up to where it is tasev le'min asoi. Where is it tasev le'min asoi? When it's an eitzer. If you go ahead and throw it on top of the eitzer, and then on sukkahs, you decide to sit in there, since I didn't put it up there l'shem sale. Remember the chiddush. We paskin like base Hillel, that you don't need l'shem sukkahs mitzvah, but you do need a l'shem sale. Very important. So therefore, we're worried if we let you put it mashra it now, even if you put it up for the right reason and you had in mind the sukkah, we may come to go ahead and allow it in a case where you put it up where it wasn't for the right reason, and it would have been a problem of taselim and asli. So obviously, this is the din of the gezeres eitzer. I know it's a little confusing because we're bringing in the words taselim and asli, guys. Because the psul of eitzer is taselim and eitzer. The psul of eitzer, guys, is taselim and asli. So I'm worried about when it's not a problem or to where it is a problem, but the psul is gezerah. Got it? Now, midaha mishum gezeres eitzer, the case of howling at the haystack is mishum tasev le'min asoi. Rabbi Yaakov hachte Reb Chia bar Abba l'shmielei. He didn't hear it. Okay, he didn't hear it. Now, Rav Ashi has a problem. He says I can create a scenario where tasev le'min asoi is applying to what? To our Mishnah, and gezeres eitzer is applying to what? To haystack. Let's say you'd hollow out the haystack and then you'd move the schach up and down there. And so therefore, maybe you'd say that what? I'm going to that or to haystack. And the case over here is what? Is where you didn't have in mind the same schach. And then it is a problem of taselim and asli. So Rav Ashi, oto chavile kash v'chavile eitzim mishum gezeres oitz ikka mishum taselim and asli leka. V'achoyte begodesh mishum taselim and asli ikka mishum gezeres oitz leka. I can apply both dinim to this as well. So therefore, we just threw a monkey wrench in the whole thing. We thought we understood where it applies to. No raya. I can go the other way also. And still, we don't know which was said by which. So guys, look very geschmack. Look back in the Mishnah. Chavile kash v'chavile eitzim v'chavile zrodim ein misachim behem. It doesn't say it's puzzle. It says don't use it as, don't do that. Don't do that. Guys, what does it say by chatite? Look by the Godesh, a few lines down. Hachoyte begodesh lasos le sukkah. What does it say? Eina sukkah. Eina sukkah. It's geschmack diak. Ein Mesachim about guys is mashma. Don't do it. But if you do it, it's good. So the Rabbanan have to say, don't do it. But Ein Sukkah is mashma. It's not a sukkah. It doesn't work. You know why? It's tasev lemin also when you hollow out the haystack. So that's the raya. So Rabbi Yochanan Amar, bottom line, Rabbi Yochanan Amar hacha diktani ein mesachim behem lechatchila. It says ein mesachim means lechatchila yeshont. Lechatchila who? Amid beis. Who the ein mesachim? And ein mesachim mishum gezeres oitzer. So lechatchila don't do it. And why? Mishum gezeres oitzer. Ha deraisa shapet dami. But deraisa will be fine. Hasan by the haystack diktani ein a sukkah. I feel the evid midaraisa nami ein a sukkah. So that's the raya. So Einach Nami, we are concluding Chavile Kash, the Chavile Zmarim, as long as they're tied together with Geyser Otu Oitzer, which is a problem of Tasev Lemin Asoy, but it's a Gezeri Derabanan, because I'm putting this up for the sake of Sukkah, guys. I'm going ahead, I'm taking this bundle, I'm putting up L'Shem Schach. It's not Makabel Tuma, it's not Makabel Tuma, it grows in the ground. Why in the world isn't it good? You hear, guys? You're taking bundles, you're putting it up. Those bundles are they check off, right? One, they go from the ground. Two, they're not makabel tuma. So why isn't it good? And the answer is because it's similar to an eitzer. Since it's similar to an eitzer, we won't allow it. Masha'en came by the haystack, where you're hollowing it out and you're ending up with a roof. Ain't a sukkah. That's not a sukkah. That's mamish tasle. That's the classic tasev leiminos.
If you have a tefach by the haystack, if you have a tefach on top inside, then you'd be allowed to do it. Would not be touched.
No.
Yes.
Why?
Because they have the case before we dug down to make the height of a sukkah. Why isn't that tasim elasi? You know the case before we had was the sukkah was too low.
There you had kosher schach. You didn't have the funnels. Digging down made the funnels.
So if you have one tefach, then it's ready in oil for sukkah. It just doesn't have
again. No. If oil sukkah speaking where you put it up the same schach. So let's say the following: I made a sukkah and it's 9 tefachim, right?
Right.
What's the problem? Is the schach the problem or the walls are a problem?
Walls are a problem.
When you dig down, what did you do?
You fix the walls. You fix the walls of the sukkah.
So why isn't that tasev lemin asui? Because the din of tasev lemin asui is only in the schach. It's not in the walls. The schach you put up the same sukkah.
So if you put a stack of hay on top of this, if you put
a stack of hay again, even if you move the hay, you do an action. It's good.
Good.
You hear the chilik I'm answering in your case, Ariel.
One is the walls and one's the schach.
Yeah. Okay. So now the rest of the Gemara is going to describe cases of different types of things. Take a look, guys. First, this will make things easier. Take a look at page 44. Take a look at the second picture. 44, the second picture. You see it's an arrowhead. You see it? But you see that the base kibble is in the iron tip. The wood itself is straight. Here's another one where the tip of the arrow is the quarterback, and the wood is the receiver. In other words, where is the area of the receptacle? Is it in the wood or is it in the iron? So that's what we call a zachor or nekeva, right? The zachor and nekeva. So now, says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, sechacha bechitzin secharim. If you make schach out of male arrows means that there's no base kibble on the wood. The wood is going to be inserted into the hole in the arrowhead. Good. Then sheiros, because it's not makabel tuma. B'nekevois, however, if the wood is the base kibble and you're going to put the arrowhead in the wood, that would not work because that is makabel tuma. Secharim sheira pshita. The secharim it's pasha. What are you telling me? So ma'adatayman nigs as secharim but in the kavis. We geyser since the kavis are no good. Secharim are also no good. Kamash malon. Says the Gemara, the kavis psula pshita. What's the chiddush of the kavis psula? So ma'adatayman base kibble the osi lamala is loishme kibble. Kamash malon. Now, when you made this tip of the arrow empty, it was made with the purpose of knowing you would insert an arrowhead. So maybe since when it was made, you knew initially it's going to be filled in and not remain as a base kibble. Maybe you might say it's not makabel tuma, kamashman that it is. You hear, guys? It's geschmack svara. Amar Rabbi Rav Chanan Yochanan, schacha be'anitze pishtin. Okay, now let's three processes, guys. Three processes in pishtin. One is one is soaking it. Two is beating it, and three is combing it. So by the time you get the combing, it's a fartika asik. It's finished. It's kamar malacha. Amar Rav Chanan Yochanan, schacha be'anitze pishtin. If you use combed flax for pishtin for schach, then psula, it's puzzle because it's makabel tuma. V'hutzani pishtin, unprocessed pishtin, kshera, that'll be kosher. V'hushani pishtin, semi-processed pishtin, any day I don't know. Mahu, I don't know. V'hushani atzmo any day, I don't even know what my shani atzmo is. So man v'shach. I dayik v'loy nafitz. If I don't know if here's my suffix. I don't know man v'shach. I dayik, if you beat it v'loy nafitz, you didn't comb it a shani karalei, and therefore what it is puzzle. Aval tori v'loy dak hutzani karalei. But if you would soak it and you wouldn't beat it, I would call it hutzani, and it'll be kasha, right? In other words, there's three processes. Yes, I know if I get to the final process, guys, that it's no good. My question is the following: is it no good after the first is it after the first process no good? Only after the second process no good, right? That's the question. What's hushani? Is hushani soaking without beating, or is hushani soaking and beating? And okay, that's one more time. Let's see the words again. Hushani atzmin yedei manav shach. I don't know if you beat it and you don't comb it 2 to 3, whether it's called hushani and it's no good. But if you just soak it 1 and you didn't beat, hutzani karelei no be kasha 1 to 2. 1 to 2 also would be called hushani, and I'd be masupik what the din is karelei. Okay, and we'll stop over here.
Thank you.
Okay, Mazel Tov to Baruch.
Good day.
The Baruch, there's the Shidduch Shviel Yafa, Zaychel B'Mayna Bayis Nemem B'Yisrael Hashem L'Tiferes.
Amen.
Amen.
Put out on